Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookham here, and today we continue with the new series of interviews with the Golden Eagle Tom Platz. In the second section of our interview, Tom Platz describes his start in bodybuilding and how, upon arriving in California, he learned from the masters, such as Arnold, Dave Draper, and Frank Zane, and how they groomed him to eventually become the Golden Eagle. Enjoy. Okay, so we've got a great introduction now. I'm glad you've mentioned all of that, and I can't wait for you to come to Switzerland. I'll bring my son along.
Please do.
We'll do. He's squatting already. He's squatting.
No, really?
It's great. Okay, so let's now go back to your beginning.
Okay.
When did you first start training? How old were you? Were you 10, 11, 12? How old were you when you started training? 9.
Sure of it. 9 years old. I've told this story many times. Maybe I'll tell it a little differently. I'm gonna try. I hope people aren't getting bored from hearing this, but I was 9 years old in grade school, in this school, St. Anthony's. It was a Catholic grade school in Millville, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down to the local drugstore by chance, and I'm like, on the magazine rack was the picture of Dave Draper on the front cover. I'm like, I couldn't breathe. It took my breath away. That's it. I was convinced from then on this was going to be my life, And granted, I got into music for a while. I love music and fast cars and all that stuff. And in my later life, wine, women, cigars, the whole thing. But as a 9-year-old, it made such an impression on me. It was like seeing God going, okay, God, I got it. I'm there. There's no question. And I can remember going up to where I was getting ready to go to college. And my dad was a retired colonel in the Army. He was like, when I was 9 years old, what are your career plans? What things do you want to achieve in your life? Break that down for me, And it was like, okay, my list of goals. But I don't know, I'm tend to get nuts with you sometimes. And I remember looking for colleges. Where should I go? Where should I go? And I wasn't really a kind of person that was from the world of academia. Okay. I ended up there, sort of. Thank God, and thank my father. My father's like, you're going to college, you're getting your degrees, at least a master's degree, and that's it. Then you can go to California. You got it, son? I'm like, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And I remember, I had the opportunity to go to Princeton University.
Wow.
And so I looked at my dad and said, Dad, that's not within my plan for my life. He was okay. Whatever you decide, and I think about it, maybe I should have went to Princeton and probably would have made a lot more money and had a lot more expensive divorces. Okay. I chose bodybuilding. I should say bodybuilding chose me. I didn't really look at it and go, oh, that's what I want to do. It's like, you have to be, I just was like, okay, I have no choice. I really had no choice. So turning down Princeton was like, big deal. Now I think about it. Wow. I could have had a totally different life and, went to the opera in Miami like I used to. And I didn't, upper elite social political class, that's really something I think about now. But back then it was, I'm going to California and I'm going to train with Arnold. And that's my goal in my life. And I can do this. I know that I have to do this. There's no questions ever. So it's like when I got there, I think most of the guys were like, this kid's possessed, because I was a teenager going, it's my plan, man. And they were like, so they were very supportive. Frank Zane would take me aside, and Arnold took me aside. When I trained with Arnold, I couldn't do it. It was like 6 days a week, twice a day. I got small and fat. Okay. And then training 3 days a week. Yeah, you big, strong, So I realized my body type and more white fiber, and I couldn't train with as much frequency as an ectomorph like Arnold. But I'll stop there. I promise to say, but everyone was very supportive. After I won the Universe, Frank Zane took me aside. Tom, now that you're Mr. Universe and you're one of us, you should really think about using your legs as part of your brand. I'm like, really? Do you think so? He goes, oh yeah. And then I said, Frank, I have a head of lettuce left and a can of tuna fish. I got to get a job. and I had my teaching degrees, teaching certificates. And he goes, I go, why don't I go to Santa Monica High and apply there? I could teach with you. He taught mathematics and science up the street at Santa Monica High. And he goes, no, don't get a job. I'm like, Frank, he goes, here's what's going to happen. In 2 months or 3 months after the magazines come out, everybody's going to call you from around the world for exhibitions. And here's what you say. For seminars and exhibitions, this is your fee. This is what you want in advance. This is what you expect upon. You know, he gave me the whole rundown of how to be a pro. You know, and he was doing seminars for years at that point in exhibitions. So he groomed me. And Arnold would often give me advice too, saying, hey, when you buy a house, don't get emotionally involved. Just buy the house. And I'm thinking about the swing set in the backyard. And, you know, I'm more emotional. Arnold could be the Terminator in real life, you know.
Yeah.
So I used everybody, you know, everybody around me was very willing to, let's help the kid out, you know, let's show him the way, you know. And I'll never forget that. I had the best teachers in the world. I mean, at the apps, I wanted to study with the masters. So my goal as, you know, a college student was to go to where the masters existed and spend time with them on the beach, in the gym. I learned a lot more on the beach sometimes than I did in the gym, you know. So how to, you know, be. And so I emulated, you know, Dave Draper and Arnold, my two biggest influences. You know, Dave Draper, the blonde hair, the girls, the beach. He was on movies, Don't Make Waves, Beverly Hillbillies when I was a 10-year-old. I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe it, you know. And Arnold, of course, you know, drinking protein out of the blender in that magazine when I was in the drugstore when I was 9. And it's just, you know, to make a long story short, it overwhelmed me. And there was no question. I mean, it's amazing to have. Most people don't have that kind of gift. They don't know what they're going to do in life. I knew exactly what I wanted to do in life, and I knew what to do when it happened, and everything sort of fell in place. I'll stop there. I can
Oh, that's great. This is great. It's like you're obviously explaining that you had this calling.
Yes, like a priest. I wanted to be a priest at one time. I thought I could be a priest. I go, it'd be tough not to have girls though around me, you know. So I think, seriously, I mean, it sounds like a joke, but you know, bodybuilding is my religion. It's who I am. And now I have to preach and share it with people, and you know, tell them about what it is. It's not about gaining muscle only. It's about what happens on the inside. What happens on the inside never atrophies. It lasts forever. And so that, I mean, people always say to me, like, I'm sure you're going to ask me this, how come you're 67 years old and you still have the same loud passion and aggression, that aggressive nature that you did when you were 9 and 10? It never goes away. It never goes away. I mean, like Stallone always said, there's stuff in the basement still. Okay. And
nice. I like that. I like that.
I'm trying to stay on track. So, you know, you guide me.
That's fantastic. Okay. Now you've talked also, I've spent this last week reading your books, as I showed you, again, because I have to, you know, remind myself of all the notes, seeing your seminars that Wayne Galash videoed back in New Zealand, in the UK. These are 2-3 hour seminars from the 90s and from the 80s. And back then you also talked about how your true introduction into the iron game began through powerlifting.
Yeah.
Where you were introduced, like my question here is now, were you introduced to heavy lifting at such a young age, from 9 years old, or did that happen a little bit later? How did that evolve? Because obviously then that went into squatting heavy, which I'm going to talk about later on. So when did that occur, this introduction, this mindset of having to use very heavy poundage?
As I progressed, you know, to be a 15-year-old and 16-year-old, I was in the motorcycles and girls and weight training. Okay. And I met one guy in high school. His name is Mike Tinkle. This is a long time ago. This is like 10th grade. Mike Tinkle. If Mike Tinkle, you're listening, your son or daughter's listening, thank you. Okay. But he was a powerlifter, a serious powerlifter, and I was amazed at what he could do. He would go to the Y. The Y was where all, you know, serious people went back then, or his porch where he had a bench press set up. And I'm like, wow, this guy is really good. I got to be strong like that. You know, it sort of influenced me. I mean, we were influenced by many things during our life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's planned. I really do. I don't think it just happens by chance. It's not by chance you and I were talking. This is part of the plan of the universe. You sort of fit into when you fit into your place, you have no question of doubt you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I could have done what I wasn't supposed to be doing. I went to Princeton and went into finance, and I probably would have hated it and probably would have just made money and go, okay, let's retire. But bodybuilding was my art, is my art. It's not just a sport. It's more than a sport. It's an art where you express yourself, And so I continually feed, even now, off other artists who are non-bodybuilding related. I mean, all the arts overlap. With me, all the arts overlap. I mean, I studied theater, I studied acting, I studied dance. All those things were required to be able to move. A short, stocky kid I had to learn those things, and I wanted to. But I got to tell you, I have a little list here, like Amy Winehouse, Whitney Houston, Lauryn Hill, Sade, and Corinne Bailey Rae. I'm like, wow! I listen to them every night. Put videos on the big screen. I'm like, wow! Amy Winehouse, Back to Black, yes, baby, And Whitney Houston was like, well, Amy Winehouse is like the human, angels and God, but the humanness was there. So she has sort of edgy kind of style. Whitney Houston was pure angels, pure God. There was perfect pitch. Okay, how do I do that on stage when I'm guest posing? That's what I used to do back in the old days. Analyze, especially female singers, because they're not afraid to go. And even the women taught me how to pose. Girls taught me how to pose. It wasn't about the guys. But Lauryn Hill, I never really got into rap, but Lauryn Hill, it's just, wow, she's floored me in her attitude and her belief system. When she says Sade, sexy, sensual, Corinne Bailey Rae, sort of young and sparkling. So I always look not just at bodybuilders, as one might think. I mean, I admire the current day bodybuilders. I have my own little concern about it. We can talk about that if you like. But I always looked at other entertainers. You got to be an athlete. You got to be an entertainer. Both. Nobody's an entertainer anymore. Everybody's, it's 250, 290, and can't move. Oh, can't breathe. Let's give him some time. I'm like, it's like judging elephants.
He said it. I know what you're saying.
I mean, I'm not criticizing my backyard. I was born and raised in this business. So, but I have some issues which you can bring on if you want. But I guess to make a long story short, I always looked at other performers. Like, how do I be like Amy Winehouse on stage? How do I be like Whitney Houston? How do I do that? And really just belt out a song and thrill an audience and contact them emotionally. That's what I was thinking. So every Olympia was like, that was just the side effect. Winning a trophy or an award, yeah, that's nice. But I'm there to affect people. God put me there to affect people in a positive way.
So you're saying that to you, bodybuilding is more than just the lifting of weights. It's your expressive nature within as an art form and the ability to arouse feelings in other human beings.
And to share, not just to arouse, but to give back. Like, does my work as an artist, does it have a life? I mean, so many bodybuilders, they win an Olympia or 2 or 3, and then, okay, let's go on to the next generation. I've been very, very fortunate, and I'm very grateful and thankful for a 57-year career as a pro bodybuilder. 57 years. I mean, and granted, the internet sort of revived, and a lot of the 20-year-olds know who I am now because of the internet. When I was a little kid, Bill Pearl, I had to look him up. There was no Google. You had to go to the old muscle magazines. I mean, technology is good and bad, and there's pros and cons to everything, okay? But I guess listening to Lauryn Hill, the righteousness of her words and the beat, I'm like, oh. So I take from that and continually take from this. When I work with somebody on posing, I'm like, it's not just posing. what do you want to say? What do you want
Yeah.
to communicate to the audience? And so it's not about just getting a reaction. It's about sharing the reaction. It's a very intimate thing. So when I got on the audience, when I was on the Olympia stage, especially in '86, it's like, wow, I would train 25 more years for one more night for no money like that. It was like, oh my, I went backstage. It's like you're standing next to God. You're like walking on water with him, and he's next to you. And Arnold's like, oh, Arnold's eyes got real big. He's like, Tom, oh, it's like, that's it. As an entertainer, the money's not that important. It is, but forget about money. You always make money. But about training for 25 years for a night like that, a symbiotic relationship with the audience. Thank you, God. I mean, wow, I'll never forget that. And 20-year-olds now see it on film. They look at the '86 Olympia on film, and they like ask me questions in the gym. I'm like, those are great years. These are all great. These are great years now too. I'm not going to live in the '80s or, now I'm living in the 2000s as well. I have to. I can't just stay there, which is easy to do with people like myself. It's easy to stay in the old days.
Yeah, it's great hearing you express all this stuff. It really is.
So I do hope you have enjoyed the second video interview with Tom Platz and how he studied under the masters, learning the trade of bodybuilding. If you have enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe, and leave your comments, and click the bell button so you are notified of the next video in this series. As you saw and heard, Tom, besides being positive and full of energy, is a very emotional guy, sensitive I would say, and even religious. And as I get to know Tom more and more, I begin to understand the passion behind his expression of bodybuilding. In the next video, Tom describes his transition from powerlifting to bodybuilding and explains how to become a bodybuilding star. Anyway, that's it from me. This is the Golden Era Book. I'm saying bye for now. As a natural bodybuilder, it is imperative to know your own testosterone levels, as they are a reflection of the anabolic environment created by your diet and training. I would highly recommend using the male hormone test kit from Let's Get Checked, and make sure you use my code GOLDEN30 for a 30% discount. Again, the advantage of checking yourself regularly is that you will know how well your body is anabolically primed to put on the much desired muscle you are working for. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Vince Gironda's approach to bodybuilding, his principles, and all these tips of wisdom that he has, I mean, there's so much stuff that probably hasn't been proven by science, and it will take science to prove or disprove Vince. But to be honest, these 3 books, I believe, which I call the Classic Physique Bundle, are the best books that Vince ever came out with. And they, of course, are the Wild Physique, the Master Series, and the Pro Series. Have a look at it this way. The Wild Physique, I believe, is like the ABCs of Vince Gironda's principles to bodybuilding. He teaches you the exercises and his principles, but how do you put them together? Well, the Master Series is a 14-month program of using all of these principles, all of the diets that Vince came out with, all of the exercises, and believe me, it's a brilliant program. Many people have used it. I know personally a lot of bodybuilders that have actually used it and made fantastic results with it. And of course, the Pro Series was a book that he came out with later on, specially targeted for getting into competition. It's just these 3 books, as I call it, the Classic Physique Bundle, Vince's best work, and available, of course, at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Now, the Pro Series of Bodybuilding, which was targeted for professional bodybuilders, contains 6 programs, each of which go for 2 months each. So it's a whole year, again, in preparation for competition. Online training is now available, including my new program, Novice to Classic, a program geared towards beginners and novices looking at developing a classic physique, as well as Classic Cut, geared at those who wish to lose weight and gain muscle fast. Details available at www.goldenerabookworm.com. Need a bodybuilding poster for your gym or office? Then check out Iron Man Magazine archive.smugmug.com for the highest quality posters on the planet. Scroll through the galleries of all the legends, including greats such as Arnold, Frank Zane, Sergio Oliva, Serge Nubret, Tom Platz, and Larry Scott, and much, much more, and select your poster now. To support your favorite YouTube channel, please visit teespring.com/store/Golden Era Bookworm for merchandise including t-shirts, hoodies, face masks, phone cases, and much, much more. Once again at teespring.com/store/Golden Era Bookworm. Become a patron at www.patreon.com/Golden Era Bookworm for hard to find books, scans of rare photos, and articles on the Golden Era of bodybuilding.
I don't think that Bill Phillips looked at it as, I want to compete against them. I want to destroy them.
If they pass legislation basically making any type of food supplement a prescription item, that would be the end, the death of the entire food supplement industry.
Take your vitamin pill now.
In the 1960s, the sports supplement industry was barely emerging.
I think the reason why Joe Weider was so successful was he had Arnold on his side.
He wasn't selling supplements. He was in the dream business.
Joe Weider was a marketing genius.
People would say the promotions or the endorsements back then were cheesy. To me, it wasn't. I loved it.
Fitness was taking off. You know, fitness became cool. You had a lot of readers that wanted to be like the stars that they idolized.
Bill's strength is his marketing savvy. He's a marketing genius.
Got it. It's only vitamin.
The right of American citizens to have free access to dietary supplements of their choice.
Consult your physician. You might as well consult the next guy you meet on the street. They don't know a damn thing about vitamins and nutrition.
The dietary supplement industry became the #2 most regulated industry. Nuclear, dietary supplements, pharmaceutical. We're more regulated than drugs.
They come in and you need to allow the FDA. They have jurisdiction.
The enforcement is kind of the questionable side of it, and how do they really get a handle on this monster?
A lot of people tell me that the dietary supplement industry is completely unregulated. It's the wild, wild west out there. It's a free-for-all. That could not be further from the truth.
A dietary supplement is not allowed to have a side effect. I always say the pharmaceutical has to have a minimum of 100 side effects in order for it to be a drug.
And now, it's a $40 billion industry and growing.
That's the really interesting thing, is the cast of characters from the 80s, when it was kind of iffy, to now when it's a lot more legitimate.
They made it sound cutting edge, revolutionary, and different, and I want that. That's cool.
We are in this industry to improve our health. It's not just a vanity project here. We're working on our lifeline. We eat a certain way to improve our health. We train a certain way to improve our health. Supplements are just that. They supplement your work, your graft, your nutrition.
They demonize dietary supplements, but they say all you need is real food. Well, what's a real food?
They pump you up and get you hard, stronger, faster, bigger.
Doc, I want to take this weight gain. I want to take this pre-workout. Doctor's, no way. That stuff, we don't know what's in that. It could be, no way. I'm not going to give you, it's going to kill the industry, bottom line.
So I must have drank so much protein powder from age 15 to 18 that my head was going to explode.
I believed in metrics so much that I would probably punch somebody in the face if they tried to take it away from me.